The world had changed long ago. Earth was no longer the center of attention in the galaxy. It was more like a forgotten corner, left behind after years of alien dominance. The skies were peaceful again, but everyone knew it was a fragile peace. Humanity had lost its place among the stars. The great cities were rebuilt, but deep inside, people carried the silent fear that one day the aliens would return. And this time, no one could stop them. Among those people was a quiet young man who saw the world differently. While others focused on rebuilding homes, he spent his nights under the stars, watching them with deep thought in his eyes. He wasn't fascinated by their beauty, he was studying them. Every light in the night sky reminded him of how small Earth was, how vulnerable humanity had become. But instead of fear, he felt determination. He didn't talk much about his ideas because most people laughed when someone mentioned fighting back. After all, how could humans, with their limited technology, challenge civilizations that could travel across galaxies? But he couldn't stop imagining it. What if Earth built something powerful enough not to attack, but to defend itself? Something that would make even the strongest alien fleets think twice before threatening humanity again. He began small, like all dreamers do. In a dusty workshop built behind his home, he collected broken drones, damaged satellite parts, and old computer chips. It wasn't much, but it was enough for him to start experimenting. His neighbors thought he was wasting time, building toys out of scrap metal. But late at night, when the rest of the world slept, his workshop came alive with sparks, humming circuits, and screens filled with strange designs. He studied everything: physics, alien engineering, human history, and the mistakes of past wars. He didn't have access to advanced labs or government funding, but he had something far greater: curiosity and a will that refused to give up. The more he learned, the more he realized that alien technology wasn't magic. It was science, complex, yes, but still built on principles that could be understood. It only needed someone stubborn enough to figure it out. One night, while testing a small thruster prototype, something unexpected happened. The engine, which should have failed like dozens before, ignited perfectly, its light a soft blue that filled the room. It ran smoothly, without overheating, and produced energy beyond any previous record. For the first time, he realized he was onto something. The thrill rushed through his veins. He wasn't just rebuilding old tech, he was creating something entirely new. The next morning, he took the data and shared it anonymously in an online science forum used by engineers and researchers. Within hours, it went viral. People couldn't believe the results. Some claimed it was fake. Others were intrigued but confused by the calculations. A few scientists even reached out privately, curious to know more. They couldn't identify who he was, but they recognized brilliance in his work. Soon, he began receiving encrypted messages from unknown sources. Some were individuals, others represented secret defense groups. They wanted to know if the prototype was real, and if he could replicate it on a larger scale. For the first time, he wasn't working alone anymore. Hidden supporters, from military engineers to independent scientists, began helping him. They sent rare materials, shared advanced data, and gave him access to abandoned facilities. Everything was done in silence. The world continued its normal life, unaware that beneath its surface something extraordinary was happening. As months passed, his designs evolved. He wasn't just building an engine anymore. He was building a dream, a vessel that could travel faster than light, powered by a hybrid core that merged alien energy patterns with human engineering creativity. Each test brought new problems, but also new breakthroughs. He worked for days without sleep, sketching new blueprints on walls, tables, even the floor when paper ran out. His hands were often covered in dust, oil, and burns, but his eyes always carried that same fire. One evening, as he stood beside the glowing core of his latest model, he whispered to himself, "If Earth can build one, just one, maybe we'll never have to kneel again." But the risks were enormous. He knew what happened to people who tried to challenge the galactic order. The aliens had destroyed entire colonies for far less, yet he didn't stop. He didn't want revenge. He wanted protection, freedom from fear. There were nights when doubt crept in. Sometimes, staring at the broken pieces of a failed experiment, he wondered if humanity was meant to stay small, if maybe peace through weakness was better than destruction through strength. But every time he remembered the stories of those who had fallen when the aliens first came, the fire returned. Someone had to do something. Someone had to make sure Earth's voice was never silenced again. His team, though small and scattered, began to call him the Prodigy. They never met in person. They communicated through encrypted channels, sending schematics, energy readings, and simulations. They were people who believed Earth could still stand proud. Many had lost family in past invasions. Others had seen the humiliation of being treated as a lesser species. Together they worked like shadows in the dark, building hope one wire, one bolt, one equation at a time. Years went by. The workshop was no longer small. It had grown into an underground facility hidden beneath layers of earth and steel. Giant cranes and robotic arms moved silently, assembling parts that looked more like art than machinery. What started as a dream was slowly turning into reality. A ship larger than any ever built by humans. Its frame was sleek and dark, made from a mix of recovered alien metal and newly forged human alloys. The design was unlike anything seen before. It wasn't just about power, it was about balance. The ship's surface shimmered faintly, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Its heart, the core, pulsed with energy that felt alive. Every system inside was carefully designed for one purpose: to survive, to protect, to endure. As the first power test day approached, tension filled the underground base. Everyone involved knew the risks. If the test failed, it could destroy everything within miles. But if it succeeded, it would change Earth's place in the universe forever. He stood there quietly in front of the control console. His hands rested on the activation panel, trembling slightly, not from fear but from the weight of the moment. Generators began to hum, lights flickered. The entire chamber vibrated as the massive core awakened. Then it happened. The ship's systems came online one by one, the lights forming a soft golden glow across its structure. Readings on the monitor shot upward, stabilizing perfectly. The hybrid engine was running smoothly, steadily, beautifully. Cheers erupted through the comms. Some cried. Others simply stood in silence, realizing they had just witnessed history being made. Humanity had built something that even the most advanced alien empires would struggle to understand. The Prodigy didn't celebrate. He simply looked up at the massive ship and smiled faintly. He knew this was just the beginning. The real test was yet to come, the moment the ship would leave Earth's gravity and face the vastness of space. For now, though, there was peace. A quiet sense of triumph. Deep underground, far away from the world's eyes, the dream of freedom had taken form. Humanity had a guardian in the making, and it was born not out of hatred but hope. Far above, the stars shimmered silently, unaware that soon, one of their old neighbors was about to return, stronger, wiser, and ready to make the galaxy remember the name of Earth. The underground chamber was quiet after the first successful test. Only the soft hum of machines filled the space. Everyone who witnessed it knew something historic had happened. But for the young creator, that moment wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. He didn't smile or celebrate. He simply stood there, staring at the glowing core that had changed everything. Deep down, he already knew what came next. Building the engine was only one piece of the puzzle. The real challenge was to turn that miracle of energy into something far greater, something that could protect Earth from whatever came next. The world above still lived in peace, unaware of the secret beneath its soil. People worked, laughed, and dreamed under the same sky, never knowing that below them a group of quiet minds was shaping the future of humanity. Every passing day, new ideas filled the secret facility. New blueprints appeared on digital boards, designs so advanced that even Earth's best scientists would call them impossible. Yet inside those tunnels, impossibility had already been defeated once. The Prodigy spent long hours studying captured alien fragments. Each piece told a story of how advanced civilizations thought and built. The alien ships were beautiful in design but cruel in intention. They relied on brute force, powerful weapons, strong shields, massive fleets. But their technology had one flaw: predictability. Every system followed a pattern. Every weapon had a rhythm. That was the key. If humans could build something that didn't follow those patterns, something unpredictable, they could finally stand a chance. He began sketching silently, his fingers tracing shapes in the air on a transparent digital screen. A new ship took form, not just a vessel of war but a living machine. A creation that could think, adapt, and move with precision and emotion. It wasn't meant to destroy but to defend. Its purpose wasn't power. It was survival. Days turned into nights and nights into weeks. He hardly left the lab. Sometimes, when exhaustion caught him, he would close his eyes beside the engine core, the steady vibration beneath him like the heartbeat of something alive. Every morning he would wake up with new thoughts, new questions, new designs. What if the ship could move faster than light, not through pure speed but by folding space? What if it could vanish completely, invisible to alien sensors? What if it could learn on its own, improving after every mission? The others who worked with him couldn't believe the way his mind worked. He didn't think like a normal engineer. He saw connections between science and nature, between machine and instinct. To him, a starship wasn't just metal and circuits. It was an extension of human spirit built from courage and creativity. But there were problems too. Building something that advanced required materials Earth didn't have. Alien alloys were rare and dangerous to handle. Their energy cells were unstable. One wrong connection could destroy the entire base. And yet the team kept working. They scavenged parts from the wrecks of old alien ships hidden deep in the deserts and mountains. Each recovered piece carried scars of past battles, reminders of humanity's struggle. Now those broken remains would become part of Earth's greatest defense. The blueprints were kept secret, stored in isolated servers that couldn't connect to the outside world. Each design was labeled simply, Project Silent Dawn. Only a few people on Earth even knew of its existence. Governments had no idea. The project wasn't run by authority or politics, it was driven by faith. Faith in one man's vision, and faith that humanity could rise again. Months later, the first miniature model of the new ship was built. It looked nothing like the alien ships. It was smoother, quieter, built for stealth rather than intimidation. When powered up, it didn't glow with harsh colors but shimmered softly, almost like it was breathing. Its surface could change its texture and color, blending with its surroundings. The idea was simple, to be unseen, until it was too late. During one late-night test, the team placed the model inside a chamber filled with scanning devices to simulate alien detection systems. As the sensors began to sweep the room, the model slowly faded from view. The screens went blank, no signal, no heat signature, no sound. It had vanished completely. The silence in the control room lasted several seconds before someone whispered, "It's gone." The Prodigy didn't say anything. He only nodded and looked at the readings. Every number confirmed what he already knew. The ship could hide from any known alien radar. That one moment changed everything. They weren't building just a ship, they were building a ghost in the stars. As the months passed, more features were added. The energy core was redesigned to create massive bursts of speed, without leaving a detectable trail. The armor could self-repair by absorbing stray energy particles. The weapon systems weren't just cannons, they were adaptive, learning the enemy's shield frequencies and shifting their energy patterns to bypass them. The ship was evolving faster than anyone had expected, but with progress came danger. The more energy they used, the harder it became to stay hidden. Small energy spikes began to appear on planetary sensors. If the aliens were watching, they could trace it. They had to be careful. One night, while the team slept, he stayed awake, sitting near the main console, staring at the energy readings. The blue lines danced across the screen like waves in the ocean. It was beautiful, but also frightening. He knew that if they went too far, they might attract the very attention they were trying to avoid. He leaned back, thinking of Earth, the people who had no idea any of this existed. The farmers, the workers, the children playing under the sun, they all lived freely, unaware that deep below their future was being written in circuits and light. He smiled faintly. That was enough for him. They didn't need to know. They only needed to be safe. Over the next year, the base expanded. New tunnels were built, connecting old military bunkers and forgotten research centers. Hundreds of people were now part of the project, though most didn't know the full truth. Each team worked on a different section: hull design, engine systems, navigation, communication. Only he saw the complete picture. Only he knew how all the parts fit together. Sometimes he would walk through the half-built corridors of the new ship. It was massive now, a skeleton of steel and light stretching across the underground hangar. The walls hummed softly, alive with energy. It felt like walking through the veins of a giant creature waiting to awaken. But the deeper the project went, the heavier the pressure became. Supplies started running short. Funding was disappearing. Some members wanted to quit, afraid of what would happen if they were discovered. Others whispered that the ship was cursed, that no human should have this much power. But the Prodigy remained calm. He never forced anyone to stay. He simply said, "If we don't finish this, someone else will control our future." Those words were enough. The team kept going. At last, after years of silence, the main blueprint was complete. It was unlike anything in human history. A warship that could travel beyond light, fight without detection, and protect without destruction. Its name remained secret, unspoken, known only to those who built it. But among the workers, one word began to spread quietly: Guardian. The night before construction was to begin on the full-scale vessel, the Prodigy stood outside the base entrance, looking at the stars. The air was cold and still. In the distance, city lights glowed faintly on the horizon. He took a deep breath and whispered to the night, "You think Earth is weak. You think we've forgotten how to fight, but we remember everything." He turned back toward the tunnels, ready to continue. The blueprints were no longer just lines on a screen. They were a promise that Earth would never again be helpless. A promise that one day, when the stars looked back at this little planet, they would see not fear but strength. And somewhere out there, beyond the dark horizon of space, unknown eyes were already watching. Sensors from distant ships caught faint signals, unusual energy readings coming from the small blue planet. The aliens didn't know what it was, but they knew it wasn't ordinary. For the first time in decades, they marked Earth on their maps again. They didn't realize it yet, but the quiet planet they had long ignored was about to change everything. Deep beneath the mountains, far away from cities and human eyes, the greatest secret in Earth's history was taking shape. The construction site stretched for miles underground, hidden behind layers of rock and metal. From the outside, it looked like an abandoned military zone, but behind the heavy security doors, a new world existed, a world of light, steel, and human determination. Massive cranes moved silently through the tunnels. Sparks flashed as welding machines sealed thick plates together. The sound of metal echoed endlessly. The air smelled of heat and energy. And in the center of it all stood the unfinished frame of the warship, huge, dark, and breathtaking even in its incomplete state. It looked like something born from both dream and nightmare. Every day, hundreds of engineers, scientists, and technicians worked in shifts that never ended. Some worked with tired eyes and trembling hands, but no one complained. They all knew what they were building. It wasn't just a machine, it was hope. The one thing Earth had lost for decades. The Prodigy walked among them silently, always observing, always thinking. He didn't give orders like a commander. He guided like a creator who understood every piece. He could look at a single wire and know if it was in the right place. He could hear the sound of an engine test and tell if something was off. People trusted his instincts more than any machine. The warship's heart, the hybrid energy core, was already finished. It sat inside a massive containment chamber, glowing softly, pulsing like a heartbeat. It combined alien energy converters with human stabilizers, creating a constant flow of clean, endless power. It was stable, efficient, and alive in a way no one could explain. One evening, as the workers tested a section of the ship's hull, a minor explosion shook the chamber. Sparks burst from a console, and for a few seconds panic spread. But before anyone could react, the Prodigy rushed forward, shutting down the power manually. The lights flickered, then stabilized. Silence filled the room. No one spoke for a while. Then, instead of anger, he simply said, "Mistakes mean progress. Let's fix it and learn from it." That small sentence changed the mood instantly. Everyone returned to work with renewed energy. They knew that every error, every broken circuit brought them one step closer to success. Months passed. The underground base turned into a living factory. Supplies arrived in secret through hidden tunnels. Giant machines shaped metal that could bend and repair itself. Every new part was carefully tested, adjusted, and improved. The ship's surface was coated with a special reflective layer that could absorb radar, heat, and even light. From a distance, it would look like empty space. During test nights, the base would go completely dark. Only the glowing blue lights of the ship's power systems lit the room. It was a hauntingly beautiful sight, the massive craft slowly awakening under the hands of its creators. As the frame neared completion, the team gathered for the first internal systems check. Hundreds of screens filled with data. The ship's artificial intelligence came online, speaking through a calm, soft voice. It wasn't just a machine, it could learn, think, and adapt. designed not to control humans but to assist them. Its programming was based on one simple principle: protect Earth at all costs. When the AI first activated, its sensors scanned the entire ship and reported, "All systems are stable." Awaiting first launch directive. For a moment, the entire chamber was silent. The humans standing there realized they had just created something greater than they had ever imagined. It wasn't just technology. It was the beginning of a new era. But with every success came growing fear. Strange signals had been appearing in deep space, unidentified probes, small but powerful, passing near the solar system. No one knew if they were alien scouts or simple cosmic objects, but the timing was too perfect to ignore. The team began to wonder if someone out there already knew what they were doing. To avoid detection, all surface activity stopped. Communication was restricted to underground lines. The Prodigy himself disconnected the base from all satellite systems. "If they're watching," he said quietly, "we'll give them nothing to see." The next phase of construction was the hardest: the weapons. Humanity had never built weapons of this scale before. Every cannon, every launcher, every defense grid had to be designed from scratch. But the Prodigy refused to make weapons meant for destruction. Instead, he designed them for precision, tools to disable, not annihilate. Energy beams that could cut through metal without harming life. Electromagnetic pulses that could silence alien ships without leaving debris. The workers often whispered among themselves that it was strange. A warship that didn't exist to kill but to protect. But deep down, everyone respected that vision. Humanity had seen enough death. What they wanted now was peace with power. Weeks turned into months, and the day finally came when the outer frame was completed. The ship stood tall inside the vast hangar, surrounded by mist and light. Even half-finished, it looked like something from another world. The walls around it seemed to tremble with the energy it emitted. The crew stood in silence, their eyes wide with pride. For the first time, they could see it fully. Earth's first interstellar warship. It didn't have a name carved into it yet. Some called it the Guardian, others simply the ship. But everyone agreed on one thing: it was beautiful. The Prodigy walked slowly along its side, running his hand across the smooth surface. Every inch of it represented years of sleepless nights, endless calculations, and quiet faith. This wasn't just his creation, it was humanity's answer to fear. The first major test came soon after. The core had to be activated while all systems were connected. One mistake could destroy everything. The team gathered in the control room, their hearts pounding. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. When the core reached full power, the entire chamber lit up. Blue and white light filled every corner. The readings on the screen stabilized perfectly. No overload. No instability. It worked. It actually worked. The ship had come alive. Applause and cheers filled the air. Some cried openly, unable to believe what they were witnessing. The Prodigy didn't celebrate loudly. He just closed his eyes and let out a deep breath of relief. For the first time in his life, he allowed himself to smile fully. But even in that moment of joy, he knew the work wasn't over. The ship could now power itself, but it still had to fly. It still had to face the stars. As preparations for its first liftoff began, the Prodigy spent more time alone. He walked through the empty corridors of the ship, listening to the faint hum of energy flowing through its walls. He placed his hand on the command console and whispered, "You're almost ready," the ship's soft AI voice responded. "Ready to serve." Outside, storms raged across the mountains, thunder echoing through the valleys. It was as if nature itself could feel that something powerful was about to rise. At last, the day came. The hangar's upper gates opened for the first time, revealing the night sky. The stars looked down, cold and distant, unaware that a new challenger was about to join them. The engines powered up slowly. The ground shook. The wind roared through the open shafts. The giant vessel began to lift off the platform, dust and light swirling beneath it. The people below watched in awe as the warship rose higher and higher, breaking through the surface. For the first time in history, Earth had built something that could stand equal to the civilizations that once looked down on it. The Prodigy stood at the control deck, watching the blue planet appear below on the main screen. His voice was calm but full of emotion as he said, "We've come this far. Let's show the stars who we are." And with that, the engines flared brighter. The ship accelerated, disappearing into the darkness of space, leaving behind nothing but silence and a single truth. Humanity was no longer afraid. The universe just didn't know it yet. The silence of space was endless. The stars stretched in every direction, cold and distant, glowing like ancient watchers. For the first time in history, a human-made warship moved among them, its engines humming softly, leaving no trail behind. From a distance, it looked like a shadow gliding across the void, silent, smooth, and invisible to any scanner. Inside the ship, the crew worked quietly, still in disbelief at where they were. For generations, humanity had looked up at the stars and dreamed of reaching them again. Now they weren't just reaching, they were standing among them. Every person on board could feel it. The hum beneath their feet wasn't just energy, it was history being written. The Prodigy stood near the viewing panel, his eyes fixed on the distant glow of Earth behind them. It looked small and fragile, a blue gem surrounded by darkness. But there was pride in that smallness now. That little planet had done something no one believed possible. The ship's AI spoke softly, breaking the silence. Long-range sensors are active. No threats detected. Good, he said quietly, his voice calm but thoughtful. Let's see what's out there. They traveled far beyond Earth's orbit, crossing the moon's shadow, heading toward the outer edge of the solar system. Every sensor was active, scanning space for any sign of movement. The deeper they went, the more the crew realized how empty and quiet space really was. It was both beautiful and terrifying, but the peace didn't last long. On the third day of their mission, strange signals appeared on the radar, small, sharp pulses coming from deep space. At first, they thought it might be natural radiation. But then the signals repeated, following a pattern. 3 short bursts, then silence, then 3 more. It wasn't random. It was a code. The AI processed the data and confirmed it wasn't from Earth. Unknown source. Signal pattern matches alien communication frequencies. The control room fell silent. Every heartbeat echoed in the still air. Humanity's greatest fear and greatest test had arrived. The Prodigy leaned forward, studying the readings. How far? Approximately 6 million kilometers, the AI replied. Moving closer. Estimated arrival in 4 hours. The crew exchanged uneasy looks. The ship wasn't ready for war. It was built to protect, not to attack. They had tested its systems, but never in real combat. And now they were about to face the very beings who once brought Earth to its knees. Activate cloaking field, he ordered. The lights dimmed as the ship's surface shimmered and vanished into the background. From the outside, it became invisible, blending perfectly with the surrounding darkness. The crew could still see the stars through the viewing panels, but to anyone scanning the area, the ship didn't exist. Hours passed slowly. The alien ships appeared one by one on the radar, sleek, sharp, and silver. There were 3 of them, small reconnaissance vessels designed for scouting. They weren't here for battle. They were investigating. Still, they were armed and dangerous. The humans watched as the alien ships drifted closer, their glowing engines reflecting faintly in the blackness. Every second felt like an eternity. Maintain silence, the Prodigy said quietly. No transmissions. No movement. The alien ships moved methodically, scanning the area where the human warship had passed. Their sensors swept across space, searching for energy trails. But the hybrid core left none. The cloaking field distorted every reading. The aliens found nothing. They're confused, one of the engineers whispered. The Prodigy didn't answer. His eyes stayed fixed on the monitor, watching carefully. He knew this was only the beginning. The aliens would report this strange energy reading to their command. More ships would come, and he was right. 2 days later, while the human ship remained hidden near the orbit of Neptune, long-range sensors detected a massive formation approaching from deep space, an entire fleet, dozens of ships strong. They were moving fast, directly toward Earth's system. The crew gathered around the central display. The sight made their blood run cold. It wasn't a patrol anymore, it was an invasion force. They think we've built a weapon, one technician said softly. They're coming to make sure we can't use it. The Prodigy's expression remained calm, but his voice carried quiet determination. Then we'll make sure they see what we've built. He knew Earth's defenses couldn't stop that fleet. If they didn't act, humanity would be wiped out before they even knew what was coming. There was only one choice, to intercept the fleet before it reached Earth. The ship turned toward the incoming forces, engines glowing softly. It accelerated silently through the darkness, moving faster than any human-made object in history. Within hours, they reached the edge of the solar system, just outside Pluto's orbit. From there, they saw it, the alien armada, filling the black sky like a wall of light. Giant vessels, each larger than any Earth city, moved in perfect formation. Their weapons glowed faintly, ready to strike. Inside the human warship, tension thickened. Every screen displayed enemy readings. Every console buzzed with activity. Yet through it all, the Prodigy remained calm. He wasn't afraid. He was curious to see how the creation he had built would stand against the universe. "Prepare the stealth grid," he said softly. "Let's welcome our guests." The ship vanished once again, hidden completely from alien sensors. It drifted silently toward the enemy formation, unseen like a ghost moving through shadows. When the first alien ship passed within range, the Prodigy gave the order. "Test the energy pulse. Minimum power." A beam of blue light shot silently from the warship's side, striking the alien vessel. There was no explosion, no destruction, just a burst of white static. The alien ship's system shut down instantly. Its lights flickered and died. It floated helplessly, engines cold, unable to move. The aliens had no idea what hit them. The other ships in the fleet immediately changed formation, searching for the attacker. But there was nothing to find. The human ship was invisible. "Target the second one," he said calmly. Another silent flash. Another ship went dark. Two massive vessels neutralized within seconds, and still, the enemy had no clue where the attack was coming from. Then, one of the alien flagships began scanning aggressively. It fired beams of red light into the void, hoping to hit something unseen. One blast grazed the edge of the human ship's cloaking field, causing a brief distortion. For a moment, the warship flickered into view. The aliens saw it, a dark, massive shape unlike anything they'd ever encountered. The fleet immediately opened fire. The blackness of space lit up with beams of energy and bursts of plasma. The human ship took the first hits head-on. Shields flared bright blue, absorbing the impact without damage. Inside, the crew felt the vibration under their feet, but the systems held steady. "Shields at 98%, the AI reported. "Good," the Prodigy said. "Now let's show them what we can really do." The ship's weapons came alive. Energy lines glowed across its surface as the hybrid system synced perfectly. With a deep rumble, the first human-built warship unleashed its true power. Blinding light erupted from its core, cutting through space like a blade. The beam struck the alien flagship, slicing through its shields as if they were paper. In seconds, the ship exploded into a storm of fragments. The remaining alien vessels hesitated. They had never seen anything like this. Their scanners couldn't analyze the ship. Their weapons couldn't harm it. Fear spread across their ranks. The human warship didn't chase or destroy. It simply hovered silently, glowing softly in the aftermath of battle. An unspoken message to the galaxy. Earth is not weak anymore. The alien fleet began retreating. Their engines flared bright as they vanished into the dark, leaving behind silence and debris. The fight was over. Inside the control room, no one spoke for a while. Everyone was too stunned to move. The Prodigy stood quietly, looking out into the endless night. He didn't celebrate. He only whispered to himself, "They know now." The AI's calm voice broke the silence. "Threat level neutralized. Earth is safe for now." He nodded slowly. "Let's go home." The engines glowed once more as the warship turned back toward the blue planet. Behind them, the stars shined brighter than ever, as if the universe itself had just awakened to a new reality. For the first time in centuries, humanity had not run, not begged, and not surrendered. They had stood their ground, and somewhere far away in the cold reaches of another galaxy, alien commanders watched the footage of the mysterious ship that had defeated their fleet. Their voices trembled with disbelief. They had expected fear. Instead, they saw something far more dangerous: human courage. The warship moved silently through the dark, endless sea of stars. The battle had ended, but no one on board could forget what they had just witnessed. For years, Earth had lived in fear of those who came from the sky. Superior, ruthless, untouchable. And now, for the first time in history, the tables had turned. Inside the control deck, the atmosphere was heavy but proud. The crew was quiet. The hum of the engines and the soft beeping of monitors were the only sounds breaking the silence. Everyone was still processing what they had seen. One ship built by human hands standing alone against an alien fleet, and winning. The Prodigy stood near the wide viewing glass. His reflection stared back at him, eyes filled with exhaustion but also a spark of quiet fire. He had dreamed of this moment his whole life, not for glory, not for power, but to prove that humanity was worth saving. But deep inside, he knew this victory was only temporary. The aliens wouldn't accept defeat. They would come back, stronger, smarter, angrier. He turned to the crew and spoke calmly. "We have to prepare." This was only the beginning. The crew nodded. They trusted him completely. They had seen his brilliance during the battle, how he anticipated every move, how he refused to act out of fear. It was his calm strength that had kept them alive. The ship's AI interrupted the silence. "Incoming transmission detected," everyone froze. The words sent a chill down their spines. The Prodigy looked up. "From where?" "Unknown origin," the AI replied. "Encrypted signal. Frequency does not match any Earth or alien pattern." He hesitated for a second, then nodded. "Open it." The lights dimmed and the central screen flickered to life. For a moment there was only static, then an image slowly formed. It wasn't an alien face. It wasn't human either. It was something in between, a shimmering figure made of light speaking in a voice that echoed softly across the room. "You are not supposed to exist." No one moved. The voice continued. "Your kind was not meant to build such power. You have touched something forbidden." The crew exchanged nervous glances. The Prodigy stepped forward slowly. "Who are you?" "We are the Watchers," the voice replied. "We oversee the balance of the galaxies. Your creation disturbs that balance. You must stop." For a moment no one spoke. The ship felt colder, as if the stars themselves had drawn their breath. The Prodigy stayed calm. "We didn't build this to dominate," he said softly. "We built it to survive, to protect our people." The light flickered again. Protection often becomes conquest. Power always seeks more. It is the nature of creation. "We are warning you. If you continue, you will face consequences beyond your understanding." Then, without another word, the signal vanished. The screen went dark. The silence that followed was heavy. No one knew what to say. The crew had expected enemies, not warnings from something far older than either race. One of the officers finally whispered, "Do you think they're real?" The Prodigy didn't answer. His mind was already racing. Whoever they were, the Watchers had power, enough to send a message across galaxies. But what did they mean by forbidden? He looked out into space again, eyes thoughtful. "Whatever they are, they know what we've built. That means others will too." Days passed as the ship continued its journey back to Earth. Outside, the stars drifted by slowly, glowing like quiet candles in the darkness. The crew rested, repaired systems, and studied the recordings from the battle. But beneath their calm surface, everyone knew that something was changing. Humanity had stepped into a much bigger universe, one filled with secrets, and they had drawn attention. As they neared Earth's orbit, the blue planet came into view, beautiful, alive, fragile. The sight brought quiet smiles to the crew's faces. For all the fear and exhaustion, they were home again. When the ship entered the atmosphere, thousands of eyes around the world looked up at the sky. The news had already spread. Earth's mysterious warship had saved the planet from an invasion. People filled the streets, cheering, crying, waving flags. For the first time in generations, humanity felt pride instead of fear. But the Prodigy didn't join the celebration. He stayed aboard, sitting in the silent control room, staring at the data from the alien fleet. He knew it wasn't over. Later that night, representatives from every major nation arrived to meet him. They came with questions, admiration, and requests. They called him a hero. They called him a genius, but to him he was just a man trying to keep his world safe. In the meeting room aboard the ship, the air buzzed with energy. Leaders discussed forming new alliances, building more ships, creating a defensive space command. They wanted to replicate what he had built. He listened quietly for a long time before finally speaking. "You can't copy it," he said simply. "It's not just metal and code. It's alive." The room fell silent. He continued. "The ship was built with a hybrid core, a mix of human engineering and energy from a crashed alien fragment we found decades ago. It reacts to intent. It knows when it's being used for protection or destruction. That's why it worked. That's why we survived. The leaders exchanged uneasy looks. Then what happens if someone uses it wrong? One of them asked. He looked down. It will destroy itself and everything around it. The room froze. No one spoke after that. In the following days, the warship became a global symbol. It was renamed Hope One. Scientists wanted to study it. Engineers wanted to learn from it. But the Prodigy refused to let anyone near its core. He knew how fragile its balance was. Then, one morning, the AI woke him early. External anomaly detected, it said. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the display. A massive distortion appeared near the edge of Earth's orbit, like a crack forming in space itself. What is that? He whispered. The AI responded. Unknown phenomenon. Energy levels increasing rapidly. He watched as the crack grew wider, glowing bright like molten light. A circular pattern began forming inside it. Something or someone was coming through. He activated the defense grid and alerted the command center. Within minutes, radar stations around the world picked it up. Governments scrambled jets. Satellites went offline. The planet held its breath. Then from the crack, several massive objects emerged, smooth, silver, and pulsing with energy. But they weren't the same ships as before. These were different, larger, more advanced, more silent. The Watchers had returned. A calm voice echoed through the warship's speakers. We warned you. You did not listen. The Prodigy stood tall, staring at the bright sky above. We didn't attack anyone, he said. We defended ourselves. There is no difference when power grows, the voice replied. You opened the door. Now it cannot be closed. Before anyone could respond, a beam of light shot from the sky, striking the ocean far below. There was no explosion, only a deep silence. Then the water began glowing from within, spreading light across thousands of miles. It wasn't destruction. It was a message. The Watchers wanted to show their power, not through violence, but through fear. Earth's people watched in awe and terror as the oceans glowed like liquid fire. The Prodigy understood what they were saying. Stay in your place. But humanity had already crossed the line. They couldn't go back now. He turned to his crew. Prepare the ship. If they think we'll bow down again, they're wrong. The AI's lights flickered. They are beyond our strength, he smiled faintly. Maybe, but they don't know us yet. The ship's engines roared to life, rising through the atmosphere once again. The blue planet fell behind them as they moved toward the glowing rift in space. The crew felt fear, but behind it was something stronger. Hope. Because this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about showing the universe what it truly meant to be human, to fight not for conquest, not for power, but for existence, unity, and freedom. As the ship entered the blackness again, the Prodigy looked at Earth one last time. No matter what happens, he said quietly, they'll remember that we didn't run. The rift ahead pulsed brighter, waiting, and the human warship, born from fear, built with hope, flew straight into it. What they found on the other side would change everything. The rift shimmered ahead of them like a wound in space, glowing and alive, pulling everything around it into a slow, swirling motion. The human warship moved closer, engines humming softly, light reflecting off its dark surface. No one spoke. The crew watched in silence as stars bent and flickered near the rift's edge, their light twisting as if afraid to enter. For a moment it felt like standing at the edge of creation itself. The Prodigy stood at the center of the control deck. Calm but thoughtful, he knew there was no turning back now. Behind them was Earth, their home, their reason, their heart. Ahead was the unknown, the truth they had to face. Status? He asked quietly. All systems stable, replied one of the engineers. Energy levels holding. But the readings from the rift are strange. It's not just a portal, it's alive. The AI confirmed it in its calm voice. It's reacting to us. Like it's watching, he took a slow breath. Then let's give it something to see. The warship pushed forward. As it entered the rift, everything around them stretched into blinding light. Time seemed to stop. The ship trembled slightly as if resisting the pull, then suddenly, silence. When the light faded, they were somewhere else. The stars here were different. Brighter, sharper, more distant. The space around them didn't feel empty. It felt full, like invisible currents of energy moved through it, whispering faintly. The ship's scanner struggled to process the readings. Where are we? One of the crew members asked quietly. The AI replied, Unknown region. Coordinates do not match any known galaxy. Gravitational fields are unstable. Recommend caution. Before anyone could react, the communication system lit up again. A calm voice filled the room. We warned you, and yet you still came. The crew froze. The Prodigy looked toward the sound. We came to understand, he said evenly. You threatened our world. We deserve to know why. A figure appeared in front of them, not through the screen, but right in the room. It was the same glowing being made of light they had seen before, but now its form was clearer, more defined. It looked almost human, tall, graceful, but made of shifting energy, like a star given shape. We are not your enemies, it said softly. We are the ones who keep balance. When species reach beyond their limits, chaos follows. We've seen it countless times. Civilizations rise, build weapons of unimaginable power, and then they fall. You are walking the same path. The Prodigy listened carefully. Then why not help us instead of threatening us? The being's light flickered faintly, because help becomes dependency, and dependency destroys growth. You must find balance yourself. But your creation, the Warship, was not born from balance. It was born from fear. He didn't deny it. You're right. It was fear that started it, but it's hope that keeps it alive. We didn't build this to rule the stars. We built it so no one could hurt us again. The being stepped closer, its light dimming to a softer glow. And what happens when someone else fears you the way you once feared others? The question hung in the air like a cold wind. The crew looked uneasy. He looked down for a moment, then back up. Then I'll make sure we never become what we fought against. There was silence. The being seemed to study him closely, as if weighing every word. Finally, it spoke again. Perhaps you truly are different. The stars outside began to shift. Space itself twisted slightly, and before their eyes, a massive structure came into view. A floating city of light, built from energy and glass stretching across the horizon. This, said the being, is the core of the Watchers. Every world we have saved, every race we have guided, their memories live here. The crew stared in awe. The structure pulsed softly, glowing with millions of tiny points of light. Each one looked like a star, but the AI quickly realized they weren't stars. They were worlds, records, stories. The Prodigy stepped forward. You've seen countless civilizations fall, he said quietly. Then you already know fear doesn't end with control. It ends with understanding. Maybe that's what makes us human. We keep trying even when we fail. The being's voice softened. You speak of persistence. That is rare. Then the light around them dimmed slightly. The being turned toward the massive structure. But there is something you must see. Suddenly, an image filled the air in front of them. Earth. But not the Earth they knew. This one was covered in clouds of ash, oceans darkened, cities empty. It was a vision of the future. If you continue building more of your ships, said the being, your own fear will consume you. Nations will turn against each other. The weapon you created to protect your world will destroy it. The crew stared at the image, their faces pale. No one spoke. Finally, the Prodigy said softly, Then tell me what to do. The being looked at him. End the creation before it spreads. Keep only what you need to defend, not to dominate, and never seek to match those beyond your understanding. Your strength is not in your machines. It's in your spirit, he nodded slowly. I understand. The being's light grew brighter again. Then go, remember this moment. You have seen what others never lived to witness. Carry that wisdom with you. And with that, the light around them began to swirl once more. The rift reappeared ahead, glowing like an open door. The Prodigy turned to his crew. Set course for home. The ship moved forward, entering the rift again. The light enveloped them one last time, and then darkness. When the ship emerged, the stars of their own galaxy filled the sky again. Earth shimmered below, calm and blue, as if nothing had changed. But everyone on board knew everything had. They landed quietly at the same base where their journey had begun. News of their return spread fast, but the Prodigy refused interviews or ceremonies. He didn't seek fame or recognition. He just wanted peace. The world's leaders gathered again, eager to continue the Warship program. They spoke of fleets, defense, and expansion, but he stood before them and said calmly, If you build more, you'll destroy yourselves. This ship was never meant to be copied. It's a reminder, not a weapon. Some didn't agree. They argued that the galaxy was dangerous, that power was necessary. But his words carried weight. People had seen enough war. They believed him. Slowly, the governments agreed to seal the technology. The ship was placed in orbit, silent, unmanned, floating like a guardian above Earth. A monument of human courage and restraint. Years passed. Peace returned. The stars above remained silent. One evening, the Prodigy stood alone near the ocean, watching the sky. The sunset reflected in the water, soft and golden. The world was healing. He thought of the Watchers, of what they said about balance and fear. Maybe they were right. Maybe power did tempt even the best of hearts, but he also knew something they didn't. Humans were more than fear and mistakes. They were hope, curiosity, and endless will. He looked up at the night sky, where the warship shimmered faintly above the clouds. It was quiet, beautiful and peaceful. A faint voice echoed in his memory, the Watcher's final words before the light faded. Every world needs a guardian, but the strongest ones are those who guard not with power but with wisdom. He smiled faintly, the wind brushing against his face. The stars reflected in his eyes, and for the first time, he felt a deep sense of calm, because he knew humanity had changed forever. They had faced the unknown, seen their own reflection in the stars, and chosen not to destroy but to grow. And somewhere, in the silent corners of the universe, the Watchers watched quietly, no longer with fear, but with respect. The story of Earth's Prodigy, the one who built the impossible, had become more than legend. It had become a reminder to every being who ever reached for the stars. Courage is not found in power. It's found in purpose. And as the night deepened, the ship above Earth continued to glow softly, guarding a planet that had finally learned what it truly meant to be alive.